Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Crypto Hipster Podcast. This is your host, the Crypto Hipster, Jamil Hassan, where I bring you founders, entrepreneurs, executives, thought leaders, artists, musicians, you name it, all over the world in crypto and blockchain. And today and the summer season, I am bringing to you a new compilation episode. Last year, from seasons 1, 2, and 3, I brought you the Crypto Hipsters Chronicles. And now, from season 4 and 5, without further ado, I bring you the Crypto Hipsters Mysticals. And what that is, what it was last year, and what it is this year, it's a compilation. It's a compilation of 3 or 4 podcasts together as like a montage. And on a certain topic or area of interest in crypto and blockchain, pulling from my podcasts. And now, as we're heading into the summer of 2023, I bring to you the Crypto Hipsters Mysticals. And there's going to be 22 or 23 or 24 around their episodes. And I look forward to you looking forward to it. So thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you for enjoying my podcasts. And this is going to be a summer treat for everybody. So please sit back, enjoy, and let me know your thoughts. This is Crypto Hipsters Mysticals, episode 17, Social Impact. The value of blockchain data is greater than just the data on the blockchain. This Crypto Hipsters Mysticals episode is a compilation of 4 segments from 4 podcasts, from 4 Crypto Hipster podcasts of season 4 and 5. The following guests are on this podcast. First is Gregory Zavcer, who is the director of Swarm Foundation. Second is Krishna Hegde, who is the co-founder of PYOR, Power Your Own Research. Third is Lloyd, who is the Chief Technology Officer at Valence Blockchain. And fourth is Rohan, Handa, who is the founding member and head of business development at Horizen Labs Ventures. Enjoy. Excellent. And so right now, like what's going on is, I guess what you call it as a decentralized storage revolution, or it might be a revolution. I don't know. But one of the goals, right, is to break up these oligopolies, like the FANG, Facebook, Apple, like ones who hold all the, power or information, and you said they want to offload it anyway, right? So how can this decentralized storage create a fairer, cost-effective, more secure web?
Well, in an abstract way, I would say that it actually creates a dialogue between different parties. In this case, between the user and the big tech companies. At the same time, decentralization, as strange it may be sounding, can also help with people connecting, forming things like data unions, and basically be an equal conversation partner to the enterprises. So it's about also by introducing new business models and new examples, and through which the public can learn. It's the corporations, the legacy corporate world, so to speak, is also incentivized to adopt new approaches. To basically, it's kind of setting new standards in how we interact, how enterprises interact with the users. Going forward, I would actually say that in a way, I mean, this is a challenge, and it's a nice idea. It's more questionable how much it can happen, but if the big titans or enterprises in general would kind of let down the guard and be more open, in a way, I think this can even be a business opportunity for them as well. It does not need necessarily to be this head-on fight. We don't like what you're doing, and now we are going to change that. If they evolve their business models, it's like they're already sitting on a lot of data. Giving them back to the users can create new trust, new improved relationships, can create better feedback loops to have like good data. Because also what is right now happening is with the surveillance capitalism, it's kind of like chasing the data. There are a lot of wrong predictions, and it's actually there's a lot of bad data. I'm quite sure that Google thinks I'm fairly different person as Facebook thinks. So also by opening the data, it's kind of like, I think there could be even historical parallels drawn with when when law was introduced, social law was introduced, introducing employment. So it's kind of, the core idea was, I as a person can work for somebody, but that person does not own me. And this kind of helped to actually for the economy to grow a lot more. So in the long term, I think it's an opportunity for all who have, let's say, honest intentions. Those who are not going to adapt, I mean, history has plenty of examples what happens with those. So we'll see.
It's interesting because I've seen in the past month and a half, I've seen, a little bit of a crypto boom, but it's not been in DeFi or NFTs. It's been in these meme coins, these not the established meme coins like Doge and SHIB, but like other things that are like purely gambling.
Mm-hmm.
And there's one website recently, the guy says you will get nothing .eth, and people sent him over $1 million, and he said you'll get nothing. They gave him money. Like, how do you navigate this age of the influencer, people who don't have experience institutional grade, right? And the importance of high fidelity institutional analytics. Like, how do you bridge that? I guess it's a conundrum, or that looks like a wide divide to me, but how do you begin to do that?
Yeah, I kind of look at parallels in the equity market, because if you look at the stock market, right, you got a similar divide. You got a set of high quality companies, large caps, etc., which are the place where the institutional investors actually, buy, sell, and focus on, right? And then you got a long tail of small caps, micro caps, pink sheets, and a variety of these companies, which are, for lack of a better word, have pump and dump operators, which are not very well covered institutionally. And as an institution, you will not touch those particular names, right? Because you have, a definition, a particular list of hurdles and checklists, which qualify what you would transact in. So to me, what's happening with a lot of crypto assets is the long tail of what you see in the equity market, which is not stuff which institutions would bother about, and which frankly, for most investors is not suitable, right? It is fun to look at $10 in a meme coin and see whether it goes to 0 or 100. You can look at it as a gambling kind of a, activity, right? But you're not going to put in your 401k money into a meme coin and expect to hold it for 20 years. That's not the nature of activity, right? So I think we should bifurcate the market, just like the way you do it in equities, and say, look, there are places which are appropriate for institutions, which are the large established tokens, the established blockchains, etc. And there are aspects which are more speculative in nature, which are unlikely to ever attract institutional interest. But it is, a good, fun activity for some people. You can't stop it. You need to kind of be wary of it and make sure you don't go all in and lose your shirt, right? So that's the way I look at it from a bifurcation perspective. And these two can coexist for the longest time. I don't think we need to, say one has to necessarily get killed off by regulation, because there is some purpose which it's serving, I would argue.
Bifurcation, interesting. So in order to get there, how should we start looking at influencers then? Because the influencers don't have the institutional grade backgrounds. How do you start? Is that the way to establish institutional versus the influencer economy, is to bifurcate?
I would argue yes, because we have had this issue of influencers globally, right? Thanks to social media being so prevalent and the ability to get your view across instantly to millions of people, influencers have emerged as a key, block of information for a lot of people over the last few years. Now, do you need to regulate the influencers? Should you have a particular set of qualifications before you go online? That's unlikely to happen, and it's not appropriate because, if you look at media right now, it is so decentralized. The fact that you and I have this podcast going is a good example of that, right? So 30 years ago, this would not happen. There would be no way for you and me to connect and discuss crypto, right? So I guess you can't regulate the influencers. So influencers will continue to exist, and it'll be foolhardy to say that, look, only if you have a particular set of credentials can you come and talk about crypto or about any other asset class. That's very hard to administer. Education is the way to go, right? So the way I look at the, how to handle influencers is make sure that the endpoints, which are investors, individual investors or institutional investors, they are all educated sufficiently. So education has to be made more prevalent at every position of transaction. So suppose you're going to buy a coin, buy a token on a centralized exchange or on a decentralized exchange, make it easy for these endpoints, the transaction locations, to provide adequate education to your customers. So for example, when I was at CoinSwitch, one innovation we did was we would put up a risk flag. So whenever a particular token or a coin or any asset became volatile, we would put up a risk flag on that particular token on the screener. And when a customer is trying to buy or sell that particular token, we would provide a nudge, right? Saying, hey, do you realize that this is a very volatile token? This may or may not be suitable for you. Please think again. Just a small nudge to force people to rethink, because a lot of people might just be getting into this, out of enthusiasm, right? So they not have thought sufficiently. So what we found is that nudge was very appreciated by people because that forced them to take a second look. And look, end of the day, it's a free world. People decide what they want to do with their money. So you cannot stop somebody from buying or selling something which is, a meme coin or something which you or I think is inappropriate. But you could help by way of education and making sure that people think through the decisions before they execute on them.
Being a baseball dad, my kids travel, right? I thought that when I signed them up this year that they were going to get a lot out. They're going to get a lot out of it because they go to travel tournaments and stuff. I got a lot out of it because I became friends with all the parents, right? And people focus more on skills than relationships, right? Your personal style includes relationships. How do you see the future of leadership, and how do you see, how organizations can tie that together, the education, the leadership, the personal values, the personal relationships, and be able to grow and move forward?
I think we're going to move towards a place where leadership is, or rather the position of leadership is earned. And rather than knowing the right people, we're going to be introduced more and more to the concept of DAOs, where we have these new kinds of businesses that rely on the power of the collective to have certain people drive certain decisions. I think today there's a lot of people that have been to the right schools, know the right people, and somehow get that role as CEO, CTO, CFO, etc. And I think there'll be a fairer system in the very near future and beyond. And I think DAOs are going to be a big part of that. And this will be a great intersection of personal relationships and technology that will take us to a place where we will have the right leadership at the right time, making the right decisions. An example that extends beyond the stuff that we're working on at Valence now is this notion of replacing the courtroom with not just 12 people in a jury, but millions of people in a DAO collectively making better decisions and quickly as well. And that can only be hugely beneficial to the world in general.
Let's talk about DAOs. First, from a technical perspective, because you build electronics, and then we're going to talk about the social impact, right? So what are the components in the future of of DAOs and decentralized networks?
I don't think that. I think the components there'll be nothing new. What you've got today is you've got digital representations of real people and real institutions, and I think that they will continue to exist. I think the network effect will change and improve a lot over the way it works today. So right now, even though we can all marvel at the internet, you've still got this problem of people having to use particular ISPs. I think the first institution that's kind of changed that is Starlink. I just happen to have Starlink myself, but I think in the future there'll be other satellite offerings, there'll be other ways of networking with other people, and then what you'll have is an increase in speed, an increase of availability, and so people that can't be part of that network today will definitely play a bigger part tomorrow. And I think that the more people that can be part of that network, part of that DAO, it will just improve the way we make decisions and the quality of those decisions we make as well.
So the social impact, right, of the Oracle of DAOs, right, decentralized autonomous organizations, right? What will they be? What else can they be? And what role will decentralized Oracle networks have in that as well?
That's a great question. I think the problem with oracles today is that I don't think we've quite worked out how to improve the amount of trust that we can have. So if you imagine blockchain to be completely trustworthy in the sense of the fact that you're relying on mathematics, at some point when we talk about oracles, we're talking about real world data. And so how do you verify that data? I think as we improve on those oracles and come up with novel ways to have much more trust in that data, oracles will morph into these highly trusted elements of everyday life. So that could be news outlets. So today, if I go to the CNN website or the BBC, there's a huge level of trust there, and there may be some other operator that has news items that are equally trustworthy, but they don't have that reputation. Move into a world where you have an Oracle-based network of news outlets. Suddenly you can pick and choose the different news sources that you want, and they're the same ones that are here today, but just using better Oracle technology, you're able to trust outlets that you wouldn't necessarily trust today.
I like that you said it that way, because we're going to talk about legality. And your sixth point was decentralization, where you brought up the concept of DAO, right?
Right.
From an organizational standpoint, for somebody who has the skill set to be sitting on a corporate board, but not the pedigree, DAOs offer people an opportunity like me to be able to be on the governance of a board, right? But certain legal ramifications and rulings have come out that saying any holder of a DAO would be first personally responsible if something went wrong with the DAO. How do you deal with those kind of crazy or wild or whatever, maybe improper interpretations of what decentralization is, to give people the opportunity to build organizations for the future like DAOs?
Yeah, I will preface this by saying that I'm not a legal expert, and a lot of these things happen in areas neither I'm an expert nor will I take credit for being able to justify what's being done. But what I can say from a business standpoint, and having participated in various DAOs, the way DAOs are structured right now are not sustainable. right? Hoping that you have a token and you have a governance token that allows its community members to vote on different topics and different things is not sustainable, primarily because there is, by default, the way the mechanics of token drops and airdrops and incentives are done, it by nature is rewarding big or holders and early supporters of those projects, right? And you can see that as a clear example in ApeCoin DAO. While I'm proud of launching it, it was the first of its kind, and what was done, the way it has evolved since has really tilted or skewed the incentives towards the big bag holders of the tokens itself, right? They have the power to dictate where the DAO goes. They have the power to come in last minute and sway the direction of a proposal in the direction that they see fit. So there's a lot of politicking that happens, which is not necessarily bad, but it needs to be consistent. It needs to be truly democratized. It needs to find mechanisms so that the smallest community member in a DAO, in a community, has a voice. And that doesn't happen if you make it completely decentralized from day one. So what needs to happen, and I still do believe, is there's got to be a path towards decentralization where you create these super net bodies that provides those guardrails, whether you call it special council members, whether you call contributors, come up with guidelines that allows other community members to participate, right? Defining the purpose, goals, and vision of the DAO and documenting it, right? Identifying the criteria for that DAO membership, recognizing the potential core contributors, selecting a suitable DAO admin to facilitate those smooth operations and so forth, eventually creating what I'd call a contribution economy, where everyone who's contributing gets rewarded, feels important, and then carving out the right voting mechanics, right? It cannot always be one person, one vote. We need to think about more novel ideas. We have these petri dish where we can experiment. Things like quadratic voting has been thrown out, right? Where the person who has most skin in the game or most values a certain outcome more, puts more on the line versus person who may not have as much incentive or desire for a certain proposal to pass or certain outcome to come through, right? So those are some of the novel areas which really need to actively be tried for, and that will make life easier, not only to understand how the structure of these organizations work, but who are the right people to help govern and grow these DAOs ecosystem from hybrid sort of centralized and community driven to purely community driven, right? Because right now we don't have those frameworks, and it makes it difficult for people who have been, as you said, on boards to take lead and do this full time, which is exciting because you have the opportunity, a blank slate, to drive the direction of the community of the DAOs in an area that is compelling, that you believe in, and bring the entire community along with it, using proposals, using boards, using grants, using new products, and using this decentralized token mechanism to incentivize and reward the base.